Hey guys, good to see you today. Miss Weekly here from Allentown Elementary. So good to see you all today. Thanks for tuning in. Ready to have some fun with some fourth grade math today. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so our essential concept today is to compare two decimals to hundredths by reasoning about their size. So you know, if you tuned in last Thursday, we talked about turning fractions into decimals and finding equivalent fractions and decimals to the tenths and hundredths place. So now we're going to take that a step further today and we're going to compare the decimals and their sizes. We're going to do that by using our hundreds chart and number lines. And we can also, remember I told you last week we could think about decimals as money. We could do that as well to compare these decimals today. So we're going to recognize the comparison are valid between the two decimals, and we're going to record we're going to record the results with these symbols. Remember, this symbol is the greater than sign. All right, it's always going to have the alligator mouth open if it's a greater number. If that number's smaller, you're going to have that mouth closed and it's going to be pointing to the smaller number. And then, of course, equal means they're the same, they're equivalent. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, guys. So let's look at my hundreds chart right here. What's the decimal represented for the shaded area? Do you know? Well, let's see. We have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68 hundredths, right? So my decimal would look like 68 hundredths. Remember, I don't have a whole number, so I have a 0 in the ones place. All right. So let's look at these two decimals. Let's look at this hundreds chart first. First of all, what's the decimal? Well, are you thinking there could be two decimals? Absolutely. We could say that that's 8/10ths, right? Looks like 0.8, sounds like 8/10ths. Or you might be saying, well, Miss Weekly, it's also 80 hundredths. Because if you count by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, it's 80 hundredths. Looks like 0.80. You are absolutely right. So I'm going to go ahead and write that first decimal on the board, 0. And I know that 8/10ths and 80 hundredths are the same value. So I'm going to write 80 hundredths over here. Now, let's look what's over here. Let's look at this fraction. What's the decimal? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You could say 50 hundredths, or you could say 5/10ths. So let's compare these fractions. All right. Remember our symbols, greater than, less than, or equal to. So let's look at 80 hundredths. Is this have more shaded or less shaded than this one? This is the greater amount, right? And if you think about money, if you have 8 cents or 8 dimes, is that more than 50 cents? I'm sorry, 80 cents. Is that more than 50 cents? Well, sure. If you have 8 dimes and I have 5 dimes, you have more, right? So we know that 8 tenths or 80 hundredths is greater than 5/10 or 50 hundredths. All right, so let's look at this problem. I have 26 hundredths and I want to say, is that greater than, less than, or equal to 4/10? Well, there's several different ways we could do that. We could think about money. We could draw a number line. or we could do a model on our hundredths chart. Let's do a model on our hundredths chart. So let's look at that first decimal, 26 hundredths. So I'm going to draw, there's 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 21, 22, 23, 4, 25, 26 hundredths. All right, well, let's look at my next fraction. I'm sorry, my next decimal, 4 tenths. Well, could you change 4 tenths to have hundredths? Absolutely. We know that 4 tenths is how many hundredths? 40 hundredths. That would help us compare the numbers. Or you could also use your hundredths chart, and that's 1/10, 2, 3, 4 tenths. So let's look at our hundredths chart. We have 26 hundredths right here and 4 tenths over here, or 40 hundredths. Does this have less shaded, more shaded, or the same amount shaded as this one? This is a lot less shaded, right? This has 4 entire columns shaded. This only has 2 whole columns and part of another one. And if you think about it in money, is 26 cents less than 40 cents? Absolutely. So 26 hundredths would be less than 4 tenths. All right, very good, guys. All right, let's look at this one. Can you say the decimal? 3 tenths and 3 hundredths. Are those equal? No way. Is a tenth the same as a hundredth? No. If you have 1 tenth, how many hundredths do you have? 10 hundredths, right? So if I have 3 tenths, that's the same as 30 hundredths. If I have 3 hundredths, that means I only have 3 little squares shaded, 3 hundredths shaded. Are those equal amounts? No, no way. Well, let's think about money. If you have 3 dimes, how much do you have? How many cents? 30 cents. All right, what if you have 3 pennies? Remember, our hundredths are like pennies. So are 3 dimes the same amount as 3 pennies? No, 30 cents is greater than 3 cents, or 3 tenths are greater than 3 hundredths. All right, let's keep going. All right, now let's look at our number line for this one. We're going to be comparing 35 hundredths to 71 hundredths. So if I look at my number line, this number line is divided into tenths. And I want you to think about each tenth being separated into 10, and that's going to be our hundredths. So if I have 35 hundredths, I know that 35 hundredths is going to be right in the middle of 3 tenths and 4 tenths. So that's going to be right here. Well, let's look at 71 hundredths. It's going to be past 7 tenths. It's going to be one little mark past 7 tenths. All right, so what's further down the number line? 35 hundredths or 71 hundredths? 71 hundredths, right? So we would say 35 hundredths is less than 71 hundredths. Great job, guys. All right, let's look at 8 tenths and 53 hundredths. Can you find 8 tenths on the number line? Right here. All right, can you find 53 hundredths on the number line? Well, I know that I have 5 tenths right here. So if I wanted to go to 53 hundredths, I would go 1, 2, 3 little jumps. It would be about right here. So let's see, is 8/10 greater than 53/100ths? Well, sure, it's further down the number line. So we would say 8/10 is greater than 53/100ths. And again, you could still think about money. If you had 8 dimes, how much money would you have? 80 cents, right? If you had 53 cents, what's more, 80 cents or 53 cents? 80 cents. So we know that 8/10 is greater than 53/100ths. Let's look at this one. Can you say the decimals for me? 43/100ths. Is it greater than, less than, or equal to 34/100ths? Well, let's find them on the number line. All right, start with 43/100ths. Do you know where it goes? Well, we know it's going to go past the 4/10. It's going to go 3 little spaces, jumps right past the 4/10, about right here. Then we have 34/100ths. We would find our 3/10. Remember that 3 is in the tenths place. So we would go 4 little jumps past our 3/10. So 34/100ths would be right here. 43/100ths would be right here. So since 43/100ths is past 34/100ths, and it's further down the number line, we know that it's what? Greater than or less than 34/100ths? Greater than. Very good. So that alligator mouth would be open to 43/100ths. All right, let's look at this one. We have, can you say that decimal? 50/100ths and 5/10ths. Are those greater than, less than, or equal? Well, let's find out. Can you find 50/100ths on the number line? What do we know about 50/100ths? Is it the same as 5/10ths? Yes, it is. It is the same. We know if we have 50 little hundredths, that's the same as having 5/10ths. So we would say those two decimals are what? Equal. Very good. Let's look at this one. We have 17/100ths and 19/100ths. All right, so I'm going to go to the beginning of my number line down here. And I have 1/10 and 2/10. All right, so I would go 7 jumps past 1/10, and that would be 17/100ths. And then I would go 9 jumps, that would be right before my 2/10, about right here. So I'd go 9 jumps past my 1/10, and that would be 19/100ths. So I know that 17/100ths is before 19/100ths. So I know that 17/100ths would be less than 19/100ths. You can also think about your money. How many cents would 17/100ths be? 17 cents and 19 cents. We know that 17 cents is 2 pennies, 2 cents less than 19 cents, right? So we know that's the lesser decimal. All right, let's look at this one, guys. We have 88/100ths. Can you find it on the number line? Well, let's look at what number do you see in the tenths place? An 8. So let's find our 8/10ths. It's right here, so we would go 8 jumps past our 8/10ths. About right here, and that would be our 80/100ths. Then we're comparing 9/10ths. Can you find 9/10ths? It's right here. So if I have 88/100ths right here and 9/10ths right here, I know that 88/100ths is a little bit less than 9/10ths. So I would use my less than symbol, and it would, the mouth, alligator mouth, would be closed, pointing to 88/100ths. All right. So now let's look at this one. Which of these statements would you say is true? Well, let's look at statement A. 6/10ths equals 6/100ths. Is 6/10ths the same as 6/100ths? Well, let's see. Let me draw 6 hundredths. I'm sorry, 6 tenths. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 hundredths or 6 tenths. If I was drawing 6 hundredths, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are those the same amount? No, we know that our tenths and hundredths are not the same. So we know A is not true. Let's look at the next one. Well, is 6 tenths less than 6 hundredths? Nope. Let's look at the last choice. Is 6 tenths greater than 6 hundredths? Yes, it is. We know that 6 tenths is greater than 6 hundredths. And remember, guys, you could think about money. If you have 6 tenths, you have 6 dimes, right? How many cents would that be? 60 cents. If you have 6 hundredths, what would you use? Pennies, right? So would 60 cents be the same as 6 pennies? 6 cents? No, we know that our 6 dimes, our 60 cents would be greater than our 6 pennies or our 6 hundredths. All right, so let's do another one. Which of the statements below is true? So let's look at A, 45 hundredths and 54 hundredths. Well, let's think about this. Let's look at the number in the tenths place. What do you see? We see a 4 and we see a 5. Well, if I have 4 tenths, I know that's less than 5 tenths. So is that going to be greater than? No. And you could also think about it as money. Is 45 cents greater than 54 cents? No, 45 cents is less than, right? So let's look at our next one. 23 hundredths is less than 38 hundredths. Well, is 23 cents less than 38 cents? Yep. And if I look at my tenths place, I see a 2 in the tenths and a 3 in the tenths place. I know that 2 is less than 3, so I know that decimal is going to be less than. Let's move to option C. 24 hundredths is greater than 5 tenths. Well, let's think about our money. How many cents would this be? 24 cents, right? What about 5 tenths? It would be 5 dimes, so what would be the value of 5 dimes? 50 cents, right? Or 50 hundredths. And we know that that would be greater than 24 hundredths or 24 cents. So we know that's not true. 24 cents is not greater than 50 cents. Let's look at D. We have 4 tenths less than 38 hundredths. Well, let's think. We could think about it as a number line. 4 tenths and then 3 tenths. Oh, well, 3 tenths, that's before 4 tenths. So we know that would be greater than 38 hundredths, not less than. So our only correct answer would be option B. All right, so I want you to tell someone you're watching with or draw or write this down. Which of the symbols make this expression true? 87 hundredths. Is it greater than, less than, or equal to 77 hundredths? You can think of money, you can use a number line, or your hundredths chart. All right, let's use the number line to check it. 87 hundredths. I know my 8 tenths is right here, so to find 7 hundredths would be 7 jumps, about right here, 87 hundredths. Then to compare it to 77 hundredths, I need to find my 7 tenths on the number line. All right, here's my 7 tenths, about 7 jumps. So, was 87 hundredths past 77 hundredths? Yes. So we know what symbol fits there. The greater than symbol. That alligator's mouth is going to be wide open to that bigger decimal, 87 hundredths. All right, let's do this one. We have 40 hundredths and we have 4/10. What I don't want you to do is think, oh, 40 is greater than 4. We can't think like this because we're talking about decimals. All right, 40 hundredths and 4/10. If I have 40 hundredths, how many tenths do I have? Well, that's the same as 4/10. So what symbol fits there, guys? The equal symbol. We know that 40 hundredths equals 4/10. They're in the same exact spot on the number line. Also think about that money. 40 cents is the same as if amount of money if you had 4 dimes, right? They have the same value. All right, so let's look at this word problem. Zoe and Chloe are reading the same book. Zoe has read, can you say that decimal? 56 hundredths of the book. Chloe has read 7/10 of the book. Which girl has read more of the book? Well, let's look at Zoe. All right, she's read 56 hundredths. So let's look at the number line. Here's 5/10. So I'd go 6 jumps after 5/10. About right here would be 56 hundredths. And then Chloe has read 7/10, so that would be right here. So did Zoe read more or Chloe? Chloe has read more. All right, guys, I've had so much fun today. A few ways you can practice comparing decimals is to do some of the games that we've already done. Just switch the numbers to decimals. You could do the hopscotch decimal game. You could do tic-tac-toe and compare your decimals with your opponents. Lots of fun ways to practice comparing decimals. Stay tuned for Thursday. We will be moving into geometry and we have some fun stuff planned. So I hope to see you there. Have a great day, guys. Thanks.